Hello, thank you for joining me today for our Beyond the Shelf story and activity time. My name is Mary Ann Wright, and I'm a 4-H area educator for Lincoln University Cooperative Extension. Today we will be reading the book Uniquely Wired, a story about autism and its gifts. So I thought this was a great book to read today because April is Autism Awareness Month. You'll see that I'm even wearing my Autism Awareness t-shirt today. And so April is a time that we like to educate people about autism and recognize those in our life that might have autism. So let's go ahead and start reading this book. We're going to learn about Zach in this book today, and Zach has autism. Okay. Again, our book is called Uniquely Wired, a story about autism and its gifts, and it's written by Julia Cook. I am Zach. I have autism. Some people say I have a disability. I don't see it that way at all. I am uniquely wired. I don't see the world the way that most people do. I have an incredible brain, and I have lots of gifts to share. My memory is amazing when it comes to things I'm interested in. I used to be into trains. I mean, really into trains. It's like I had train brain. I can tell you anything and everything about trains. Like the longest train on record was 4.568 miles long. Or the top U.S. speed limit for a passenger train is 59 miles an hour. In other countries, trains can go over 200 miles an hour. A few years ago, I grew out of trains. Now I'm into watches. I mean, really into watches. I currently own 379 of them. I can remember everything that I learned about watches. When I look at a watch, I totally get lost. I love to see the hands move. I always know what time it is. I love to see the gears turn. I love to see the numbers. I love to hear my watches tick. I can be with my watches for hours and lose track of time. Hey, that's funny. When it comes to my watches, I hold them, listen to them, smell them, and if I could, I would eat them. When I go to bed at night, my watches go to bed with me. Sometimes I don't sleep. Neither do they. If you ever want to teach me something, try doing it from a watch's point of view. Then I just might understand. Zach, if a watch falls to the ground, it might break. Then it won't be able to move because its insides will be broken. If you don't wear your seatbelt in the car and we get in an accident, your insides might get broken. Then you won't be able to move. You might get tired of listening to me talk about watches, but I will never get tired of talking about them. It's not fair. How come Zach can take his watches to bed with him, but I can't take my toys to bed with me? Because Zach's watches help him feel comfortable enough to fall asleep. Your toys might keep you awake because you'll want to stay up and play with them. Because of Zach, I have learned that fair doesn't always mean equal. And that's okay. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts with me. Most of the time, I like doing things all by myself. I really don't like to talk to other people, especially people I don't know very well. I have my very own personal space bubble. I get to decide who I let into my bubble and when. Once in a while, my teachers have to remind me that other people have bubbles too. don't like hugs very much, but my mom gives them to me anyway. She says I'm like hugging a prickly pear cactus. Sometimes I hug people at the wrong time. I just can't seem to figure out the hug thing. Oh, and you know what else? I hate it when the tags on my clothes scratch my skin. Oh, and another thing. I have a hard time knowing what you're thinking and feeling when I look at you. But that's okay. You can look at me and learn how I think and feel. And if I have a hard time looking at you when you talk to me, when I try to do that, too much information goes into my brain all at once, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. That's because you talk with your eyes. Your eyes can tell, well, what do you think? I don't think that's a good idea. Your eyes can also say, I love you. I'm not being rude when I look away. I'm just trying to protect myself. I see and hear the world a little different than you do. My eyes and ears are really powerful. They're like a superhero. Whenever I look at something, I see all of it all at once really fast, and I can't stop it. My brain gets flooded. Too much information goes into my head all at once. That's why I have to look away. Sometimes it's easier for me to smell things than it is to look at them. I like to smell just about everything I touch. I don't like a lot of noise. It totally freaks me out. When I hear a noise, I hear all of it all at once really fast, and I can't stop. My brain gets flooded. I like to wear headphones to make the sounds softer. Zach has the ability to teach us that every person sees and hears things differently, and that's okay. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts with us. Sometimes I flap my arms and my hands really fast. I love the way the air feels against my skin. Whenever I get excited, upset, bored, or anxious, I flap. It helps me calm down my brain and organize what I am thinking. When I flap, you might think I look weird, but it's just my brain thinking on the outside of my body. As soon as I feel organized, I stop. You should try it sometimes. It really works, and my teacher says it's great exercise. Because of Zach, we're able to feel the air against our skin, organize our brains, and get some great exercise. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts with us. I am a spinner. I love to watch things go around and around and around. I spin toys. I spin wheels. I try to spin everything that I can hold. And I love to spin me. The faster I go on the outside, the quieter I feel on the inside. When I spin, I can feel the whole world. You should try it sometimes. It really works. Because of Zach, we are able to see when the world around us is spinning out of control. We sometimes need to start spinning with it. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts with us. It's really hard for my brain to come up with my own words to say, so sometimes I borrow words from other people. You included. I love to hear myself talk, but once in a while, words get stuck in my brain, and then I say them over and over and over again. It's fun for me to predict what's coming out of my mouth. I'm like a word copy machine. If I like the way something sounds, I can make a lot of copies. Since Zach likes to borrow words from others, he helps us all become more mindful of what we say. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts and making us laugh. In some ways, I am different than you, but in a lot of the ways, we are the same. I feel bad when other kids are mean to me, just like you do. I feel alone when other kids don't include me, just like you do. I feel hungry, tired, hurt, cranky, cold, hot, thirsty, yucky, and sad, just like you do. It's just harder for me to talk about it. I embarrass my big sister when I laugh at the wrong things, and she thinks I act strange around her friends. I don't mean to. I'm just being me. Everything I do and say has a purpose. It might not make sense to you, but it makes me feel normal. Zach has taught me to accept the fact that everyone's wired differently, and that's okay. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts with me. My little sister gets jealous and feels left out because I get more attention from our parents than they do. I don't learn from watching other people. I mostly learn from things that people teach me. I'm a black and white thinker. To me, there is no gray in life. So please don't expect me to be able to read between the lines. My brain is very crowded and busy, so it takes a lot of patience, repetition, practice, and hard work to teach me new stuff. I'm super smart in some areas, but I struggle with little things in life, like getting dressed. Mom and Dad have to spend a lot more time with me than they do my sisters. Sometimes I just wear them out. Zach has taught us how to be more independent. He also has helped us become more patient. Because of Zach, we're better at sharing and making compromises. Thank you, Zach, for sharing your gifts with us. I am Zach. I have autism. Some people say I have a disability. I don't see it that way at all. I am uniquely wired. I don't see the world the way that most people do. I have an incredible brain, and I have a lot of gifts to share with you and with everybody else. So yay! We learned a lot about Zach and a lot about autism today. So we see that those with autism, sometimes their brain just thinks a little bit differently than ours does. And so it's important that we take these gifts that Zach shared and we use those in our own life to be more compassionate and understanding and patient with those who might just see things a little differently than we do. So thank you for listening to that book today. And now we are going to do our activity. And today for our activity, we are going to be making a spinner, because in the story, we know that Zach loves things that spin, and he likes to spin himself. So we're going to be doing an easy craft that we'll get to explore how to spin and how to make things spin. So you just need a few things for this craft. You'll need a couple of pieces of paper. You'll need a piece of cardboard. You'll also need a pair of scissors, a box cutter or an X-Acto blade. You'll need some small rope or cord or twine, a glue stick, a few markers, and a pencil and some Scotch tape. So that's all we need for today's activity. So I'm going to move the camera so you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing here in our craft. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make a couple of circles on my paper. And I'm just recycling some paper here. So you're getting something that we can draw around. So I just found a plate. You can look at your house to see what you have available. And I just put it right down on my paper and drew all the way around it. So I have a circle here. And you're going to want to do that 2 different times. Once you have your circles, you're just going to go around and cut around the outside of your circle. So take your time, make sure you're staying as close to that line as you can. So that way when we put our spinners together, everything lines up. There we go. So you'll have 2 of these paper circles. And then with your cardboard, I just had an old pizza box that I went and used my X-Acto blade. I used that same object to go ahead and draw a circle on my cardboard. And then I took my time cutting it out with my X-Acto knife or my box cutter. So be very careful with this step. This might be a step that you want to ask your parents to do for you. If they say you can do it on your own, they want to make sure that they're there watching you and make sure you're really being careful when you're cutting the cardboard. But you're going to have a piece of cardboard that matches up exactly with your circle here. So the next step is to decorate our piece of white paper. So you can do that any way you want to. Just take your markers and add some color to them. Now, also, the more color you add, the neater your spinner is going to look when it's in action spinning. So make sure that you add plenty of color here on your spinner so you get lots of movement when it is working there. So just keep adding to it. You might even want to put a puzzle piece shape on this. A lot of times when we think of autism, especially Autism Awareness Month, we see a lot of puzzle pieces, and that just reminds us that everybody is a little different and unique, just like a puzzle piece, but that's okay because it all fits together. So I have a puzzle piece that I made there. So once you get your paper all decorated like you like it, you're going to take your piece of cardboard and we're going to add some glue to it. So I'm just going to use my glue stick here. I'm going to go ahead and put glue all over the side of it. I want to make sure it sticks really well, so make sure you're using plenty of glue there. And then just line up your paper and stick it down to your cardboard. And see, I already did the other side, so I have both sides that are now covered with my paper. The next step is putting 2 holes in the center of our paper. So you can take your pencil again and you can find the center of your circle, and maybe you put a little X there. And we don't want our holes to be exactly in the center. We want it to be on either side of that center point. So you can draw 2 little holes, and then we're going to take our box cutter again. We're just going to get the blade out just a little bit, and very carefully again, we're going to create 2 holes. So I'm just going to place my box cutter right on the mark where I have my hole, and I'm just going to twist and get a little bit of pressure there so it comes out the other side. Once I see where it's on the other side, I turn that around and make the hole just a little bigger. So I'm going to do that on both of those marks that I made on my piece of cardboard. Okay, once you do that and you have your 2 holes there, you can take your pencil and you can make that hole a little bit bigger, a little bit cleaner by just putting your pencil through that hole and widening it just a little bit. So now I have 2 holes here in my cardboard. Now, one of the last steps is we take our cord that we have, and you want to cut a piece that is about the length of your arms when you stretch them out like this. So it's going to be about 36 inches, and you're just going to cut the end of it there. And you're going to take the end of this and you're going to thread it through your hole. Now, if you need to, you can add some Scotch tape to the end of this to help it thread a little bit easier. So you're going to take it through one and then you're going to take it back through the other side. Okay. Then you're going to take your two ends and you're going to go ahead and tie those together. So I have already done that here with one I made earlier. So you see I have a knot in one end and the other end is just a loop. So now we're going to take our cord and we're going to make sure that our cardboard piece is kind of equal on each side of our cord here. Now we're finished with making this. Now it's time to make it spin. So you're going to see especially how important adding your color is when you do this spinning activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay my spinner down and I'm going to take these two ends of the cord with my hand and I'm just going to slowly turn them. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not flipping my cardboard over, but I'm making sure that my cord is getting nice and twisted here. So you see how it's twisted? We want it to be lots of different twists. And now when we pull these strings apart, it's going to cause our disc to spin. So the trick is learning how to keep it spinning for more than one round. So the way you do that is you move your hands out and then slightly back in, so it will twist the other direction, then untwist and then twist the other direction. So hopefully when you're spinning this, you'll see how it works here. So let's try it out real quick. So see how I just slowly let my arms and how it swims back and forth? So mine works. I hope that yours works too. And you can play around with it. You can see if different types of string affects the way your spinner works. You can add different patterns and see how it looks when it's spinning. If you want to do a spiral versus maybe some lines versus some polka dots, and see what all those look like and how they differ. So I hope you'll play around with this. I hope you enjoyed making it. And I will see you back here next week for another Beyond the Shelf story and activity time. See y'all soon. Bye-bye.